Good morning, everybody. I wanted to start by thanking the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Knowledge Foundation and the United Nations Development Program for inviting us to this panel today, where we're going to be talking about cybersecurity in the fifth industrial era. My name is Maliha Rashid. I'm a managing director at Accenture. I lead our security practice for the UAE and data privacy for the Middle East. I'm joined today by an amazing panel of specialists in cybersecurity. I'm glad to see that we have great gender diversity as well on this panel. I'll start by introducing Kauthar Hassian, who leads security at IBM for the Gulf, Levant, and Pakistan, as well as Salwa Alessa, who is Director of Information Security at Detasad, and Sebastian Madden, Chief Corporate Development Officer at PGI, a Middle East lead of CREST on information security skills. So I'll start by giving an introduction of what the fifth industrial revolution is, and then we'll talk a bit more about what the risks are. So moving on from the fourth industrial revolution, which was all about technology, artificial intelligence, and the acceleration of digitization, really. The fifth industrial era is centered around the human, so it's a very human-centric approach on how technology can help advance human beings, society, the environment, the workplace, and with a larger focus on well-being, with a larger focus on healthcare, for example. So from a technology perspective, we're seeing more connectedness between human beings and machines. I think this year's surprise was ChatGPT, where we're seeing more and more interaction now between humans and generative AI. I think all of us are experimenting today with this type of technology. But there are other uses as well that we're seeing in terms of medical care, for example, where, I don't know if, I was born in the 80s at least. I used to watch The Bionic Man when I was younger, and Bionic Woman as well. And it seems that today we're entering into that era where you will have technological implants into your body to help you, to fight diseases or to maintain your health. We are seeing more and more use cases as well around other technologies. We're entering the frontier of space now more and more as we go and search for other frontiers outside of our planet as well. So more and more technology, satellite technologies, things like that, where cybersecurity is going to be even more important. The focus on the human being means more processing of personal information. So that also means more privacy risks around individuals' personal information. Knowledge, we just saw the keynote where the future is about having more knowledge and being able to make the right decisions based on having the right knowledge at the right moment. So that means protecting data is going to be even more important. So having just posed this kind of statement around what are the implications of the fifth industrial era, I'll now get some insights from our great panelists today, and I'll start with Salwa. So Salwa, in your role today and with your very technical background in cybersecurity, what do you see as being the key risks from a technology perspective in the fifth industrial era?
So I'll start with the challenges with the fifth industrial revolution. For cybersecurity instance, there are interconnected systems in industry fifth 5.0. everything is connected from smart homes to smart cities to smart industry. The vast network that is available, there is every endpoint is available to for cyber attacks. Advanced technologies, emergent technologies from AI to robotic, emerging technologies, and advanced technologies. Advanced طيب advanced technologies. طيب there should be zero split, zero trust by zero split.
Absolutely, and you've used the right term. I think zero trust is
Zero trust,
has
zero split.
absolutely.
What do you mean by zero split? Zero split, that means that we have no control to anything. And we can implement all cryptography solutions that can address all challenges in fifth industrial.
So much, Kauthar. I think you raised a great point around how cryptography is also going to play a key role in securing the technologies of the fifth industrial era. Kauthar, over to you now. I'd love to hear more on what your thoughts are around, we talked about zero trust just now, but also if we look at it from a cyber resilience perspective, right, and the ecosystem that is going to be a lot broader, what are your views on how we can better secure this new frontier of cyberspace that we're entering into?
Well, thank you, Maliha. And cyber resilience is really a term that I like a lot because it combines cybersecurity with business continuity. And, if we just go back to the definition of cyber resilience, the whole conversation changes because it is really about how do you anticipate, how do you withstand, how do you prepare, and how do you just admit that it is not if I get breached, but it is more about when I get breached, am I really prepared? And, to which extent everything we have prepared will lower and mitigate the impact of any cyber breach. And I think in this region particularly, it's even more important to think about cyber resilient. When you look at the cost of data breach report, which IBM publishes every year, it is based on real breaches. So it's about 500 breaches that have occurred the year before, and what are the lessons learned. And when you see that the Middle East is the second most targeted region after the USA, it just flags the importance of how do you prepare. And I think just to align and resonate with what you were sharing, most of the cyber breaches occurs due to humans. So exactly. So I think it's not their fault, but it's how you're preparing them, how you're training them, how you're developing those habits, and how do you make them think like almost like hackers to better prepare. So, of course, you can automate as much as you can. As you were saying, we can leverage automation in everything related to technology, use cases, etc. But we still need humans. And when you see that malwares or phishing are most of the attack vectors in this region and worldwide, I believe there is something to be done in that sense. And I liked you're asking about well-being, and I really love and care a lot about that. And I think, when an organization is being breached, the amount of stress and anxiety, not only leaders, but also the whole organization is going through, it's really important that, you do simulate different exercises along the way and you really provide the right resources to your people to make sure they understand and they will be, better prepared, but also you're helping them to be strong enough to go through it.
Thank you so much, Kauthar. You raised a few very interesting points there around the first one around cyber attacks. I'll also add a few interesting statistics. We have a recent report that came out as well, and a statistic from Cybersecurity Ventures that by 2025, the cost of cyber attacks globally will be around 10.5 trillion US dollars, which is the size of the third world's largest economy. So it just gives you an idea of how expensive and what the impact of these cyber attacks are going to be. And that's just 2025, so that's in 2 years' time. And it's going 3x from 2015. So in every 10 years, the number multiplies by 3. And it's probably going to become exponential with the advent of these new technologies, with the human and robotic interaction becoming even more stronger. And so the point you raised around well-being, very important. I think it goes down to communication, it goes down to skills, to professionals in cybersecurity feeling comfortable as well in their roles. And I wanted to hear from you, Sebastian, particularly with your role at Crest. I wanted to hear more about what you think the challenges are with the cybersecurity workforce today. This is a pain point that often comes up in a lot of cybersecurity surveys on how to attract, retain, upskill people into cybersecurity, right? So over to you, Sebastian.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the Mohammed bin Rashid Knowledge Foundation and the UNDP for putting together this brilliant panel, and a special congratulations for ensuring finally gender diversity in cybersecurity the right way around. 3 women in cyber and just 1 token male, so I think this is a triumph in itself. So on the cybersecurity workforce, why doesn't it look like this panel? Why does it mainly look like relatively tired, relatively old male professionals doing what they learned at university 30 years ago, rather than adapting and adjusting to the challenges of the 5th Industrial Revolution? And the obvious answer, of course, is that education, training, skills development has a lag to it. And I think that also goes to the heart of the 2 points you've raised, Malika, around retention and well-being. If you're trying to do a job you're not fully equipped to do, where there aren't enough of you, and where you're not necessarily being recognized by employers or those around you for the great job you're doing, that's going to lead in turn to stress. So if I can adapt the description of the problem a little bit longer, the way we see it at Crest is that the global workforce at the moment and their employers, the cybersecurity industry, they're lacking in 4 areas. So they're lacking in capability. People don't have the knowledge and skills to do what the workforce actually needs them to do right now. Now, we're talking about new issues like quantum, like generative AI. The workforce at the moment still hasn't got the skills to deal with yesterday's issues like industrial control system security, Internet of Things, let alone what's coming around the corner or indeed arrived yesterday. So lacking the capability, lacking the capacity. There aren't enough people. We all read the statistics, so they're saying now 4 million, I think ISC2 said is the latest estimate of the global skills gap. So you haven't got the right people in the right numbers doing the right jobs, and where they are in jobs, we lack consistency. We have no single way of saying to people, this is what your job should look like. This is the certification you should have. This is the exam you should have taken in order to prepare yourself. This is the workforce framework that you should have aligned yourselves with. And the final point, there's no real sense of community. You know, we all occasionally come together at events like this and furiously agree, but what are we doing most of the time? We're competing against each other. We're competing against each other for talent, for contracts, for attention. We're not really working as a cybersecurity community to address the systemic issues facing the world around us. I was invited to prepare a slide so that those who don't want to listen can read. And I just wanted to propose a way of looking at the world and how we can perhaps tackle all four of those issues simultaneously. And that's to think of cybersecurity workforce as an ecosystem, and to look at it as effectively a system of systems, taking into account primary education, secondary education, higher education, vocational training, apprenticeships, everything that the employers can do, and aim to get that all aligned behind the challenges that we in industry are seeing, that academia is seeing, and to try and get people coming through that system, not prepared for what they need right now, but for what they're going to need in 5 years' time when they finally hit the workforce. We can do tactical things, which I've popped on the right-hand end of the slide. We can look at aftermarket training. We can look at aftermarket vocational development. But why are we doing it aftermarket? Why isn't it coming through the system as a whole? So my suggestion would be by having academics and industry working together with appropriate guidance from government and regulators, we can actually get the whole skills ecosystem re-engineered to produce what we want in the numbers that we want them. And I don't want this to be a lecture because obviously we want an interactive panel, we want questions, so I'll come on to examples that I've seen where this is working really well later on. But that's my opening statement, Malika.
Yes,
Thank you so
if
much.
you don't mind, Maliha, I think I would love to jump in here because one of the key elements is really the human factor, and thank you. I really appreciated everything you've said, and you know, when you see that most of the breaches are happening also not with your immediate ecosystem, but really, please consider when you're doing security awareness or trainings or tactical incident response, please take into consideration the whole supply chain because lots of organizations are focusing on their own, but you know, when you look at to the whole supply chain, the breach can happen from any of these points. And I truly believe, you know, we need to expand and really care as human beings, but also as professionals of spreading the knowledge from the cybersecurity perspective across the whole supply chain. Sorry, Maliha, that's what I wanted to share.
No, thank you so much, Kauthar, and thank you, Sebastian. Very insightful points. I think I noted from there a few areas I'd like to deep dive on. So we talked about, you know, how, and thank you for this, you know, very comprehensive training framework. I think one point you touched about, which I'd like to expand on a bit more, is the regulators. There is a need to enhance regulations today. We know that there are, as we speak, multiple countries that are working on generative AI frameworks, which is an urgent and pressing point. But what we expect to see over the next coming years with the fifth industrial revolution is further enhancements and really a different way of seeing regulations. One thing I'd like to touch upon before I come back to the panel is, and I'm saying this as a data privacy specialist. So, one of the standards that exists in the Middle East today, the NDMO, actually talks about when you're assessing the impact of AI processing. Before you even go and implement that, there's an obligation by the regulation to actually assess the psychological and the sociological impact of what that treatment is going to have on the human being. And that really is, I think, a core element that needs to be considered. And going back to, and I'll go back to you, Sebastian, on this. What are the kind of soft skills you think that we need to develop in the cybersecurity workforce to be able to address this future in the right way? You know, considering what I've just talked about around considering the human and the impact on them.
So thank you. I think that's a really good point because it's very easy for those of us who are concerned with technical specialisms in cybersecurity just to get very obsessed by what tasks you need to carry out, the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities that you need to carry out those tasks. But ultimately, most of cybersecurity, as Gotha says, is not an engineering problem. It's a human problem. And most of the solution to cybersecurity doesn't, I hate to say it, lie in that much of the technical solution. It lies in the managerial decisions around risk prioritization, around mitigation, and around how effectively to balance investment in order to build a better overall security posture rather than just tackling challenge by challenge by challenge at a technical level. So absolutely, as we build rounded cybersecurity professionals for the future, we need to be taking into account the ability to communicate, the ability specifically to write. A lot of cybersecurity output still needs to be documented, and I think all of us probably have a number of colleagues who are wonderful technically, who can absolutely articulate in a spoken briefing what it is they found, but leave no evidence trail behind whatsoever that enables anyone actually to work out quite what they did. So I'd pick up obviously communication skills, leadership skills, ability to motivate and inspire. Why do we have recruitment challenges in cybersecurity? Why do we have retention challenges? Perhaps that's a little bit down to poor management and leadership skills. So the ability to generate and build a team and keep it focused on what's needed next as well as what's needed now, absolutely as important as the hard technical skills.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. I'll now turn to the very talented ladies that we have on our panel today. Sebastian, you got me thinking of how we can really augment rapidly this cybersecurity workforce for the future. And a talent pool that is often neglected is the talent pool of women. So I wanted to ask you, Salwa, and particularly being based in Saudi Arabia, how are you attracting more women into this field, and what do you think needs to be done by institutions or organizations to attract more women and to retain them in this very, originally masculine kind of field?
So I'm proud to be part of UK Gulf Women in Cybersecurity Fellowship program. So I am supported from the program, and this is how I was introduced to Sebastian and protection group. On the other hand, the national cybersecurity in Saudi, they really empower a woman. يعني, how I tell you, يعني, even in my company, if I don't get support from the CEO, I wouldn't be sitting down here now. So I'm grateful, and this is why we are trying, whether from government perspective or private, and so we try to empower women and do the best to skill up the capabilities, and they can do it. It's not impossible. And if you ask me 5 years ago, it was difficult. Now, never.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Salwa. We are seeing more and more women coming into this field and across the Middle East and different countries.
And by the way, let me tell you, in national cybersecurity, we got from our company 100% score. And this was led by LED.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great results there. Thank you so much for sharing on gender diversity. Kauthar, I'd love to hear your view on how we can get more women to get involved in these very technical fields.
Well, this is something I'm very, very passionate about, and I believe so. Personally, I do a lot on my personal time, but I think one, it starts with young women. So, and when I say young women, it's always how do we speak to young kids at the school, at university fair? How do we attract more? Because diversity is important, and I think having women and men working together and having more women starts with hiring them from the early stage. But not only that, I also do what we call the cyber days for girls, but also we have initiated some other initiatives like Cyber Day for Women. So lots of women are thinking about, coming back to work, and they have either paused for many personal reasons, and that's absolutely fine. But how do we upskill them, and how do we work on bringing them into the cybersecurity field? And finally, but not something small. I think in these countries like NCA in Saudi, or Cybersecurity Council in the UAE, or NCSA in Qatar, we see a lot being done for women empowerment, and a lots of initiatives are there to build the next CISOs of the future. And there are some very, very focused, I think, initiatives to teach women, but also put them in different positions, and empowering them to be able to do more. So, of course, there are efforts being made, and I think women are also embracing the fact that they want to be part of it. Of course, they can do it, and happy to see lots of large consulting firms, but also large corporations investing in women.
Thank you so much, Kauthar. It's lovely to hear about these different initiatives across the Gulf countries. Now, going back a bit to perhaps to the UAE, we are seeing that from a cybersecurity perspective, there is, a lot of traction in the country, a lot of initiatives around learning and knowledge. I'd love to hear your perspective on what you see as, in the next 5 years happening in the country and also globally in terms of cybersecurity trends. And perhaps, Sebastian, if you're able.
Yes, of course. And if I can just do a quick reprise of diversity in cybersecurity, just because, again, I think having only the women on the panel answering the question on diversity probably absolves some of us from our responsibility. It makes business sense apart from anything else. I say there's not enough capacity in the global cybersecurity workforce, so why do we have a workforce that 50% of the world's population doesn't instinctively feel is a role for them? And it's not just gender diversity, it's also other forms of diversity. So we know that neurodiversity, different types of thinker, can bring a lot of different perspectives to the tough challenges of cybersecurity. And it's really a responsibility of absolutely all of us to make cybersecurity the safe space where everyone can contribute who wants to, rather than just people who happen to look like ourselves. More broadly, and thank you for the opportunity to reflect on the excellent work that's being done here in Dubai, here in the UAE, on cybersecurity skills. There's a particularly excellent initiative under Digital Dubai and the Dubai Electronic Security Council, who've already mapped the workforce requirements of Digital Dubai, including cybersecurity, and then have translated that into an educational program through CyberNode. So anyone wanting to take on a career in cybersecurity can essentially look at the roles that they want, the requirements of those roles, and then identify training that will help them access it. Similar initiatives in other countries, Saudi Arabia, the SIUF workforce framework, again, has been used to then define a program of training which can then be rolled out through public and private sector academies. Jordan have a Cyber Shield Academy. There's others around the region, I won't list them all, but essentially have started from my first point on the right-hand side of the slide, the kind of fixing gaps element, what is needed now and what can aftermarket training provide, and the fact that employers can now say, I want people who are called this and use exactly the same terminology because they can define them against a framework like SIUF, and say, undersea, this job role is called this. The people doing it need to be able to do this, and here are all the training courses you can go and get in order to be prepared for those roles, is a really brilliant step forward. I think there's scope in there for a degree of, again, diversity. Different countries do need different things. We can look at the American NICE framework and say, well, that's brilliant and it's detailed and it's comprehensive. Why does everyone need one of their own? And the answer is, well, NICE has got a very large number of job roles in it. I'm doing a lot of work in Oman at the moment. The largest cybersecurity team in Oman is probably 20 people. They do not need to be told what 80 job roles there are at 5 different levels. Let's just focus on 5. And again, there's an excellent piece of work underway in Oman to develop the cyber resilience workforce framework for Oman, where again they've taken the concept of cybersecurity and, as Maliha and Kauthar have said, they've adapted it and turned it into, yes, but what's needed when cybersecurity becomes cyber resilience? What are the extra things you need to be able to do? And then work with universities and start to push that back into research programs to, again, ask what are we going to need next, as well as what are we going to need now?
Thank you so much, Sebastian. Very interesting insights on the differences that we see across different countries, and also around the scale and size of the types of teams that are needed, the agility that's needed as well in when you're building out smaller teams, and then when you do things at scale in countries where that you have larger countries, larger organizations, larger teams by default. I'd like to just jump back on some of the focus on the knowledge that's needed and some of the key topics. And I'll go back to you, Salwa. I know that you're doing some very interesting work around something called quantum technologies. Would you like to explain to us a bit more about what quantum is and how it's going to help secure the future?
Okay. Let me begin with understanding the quantum landscape. Okay, quantum computing with its incredible computational power has the potential to revolutionize the industry. However, this power comes with double-edged sword. By that, the ability to break commonly used encryption. Let me give you an example, a use case. We have a smart city. It's a vast network, a lot of endpoint that any cyber attack could
bring down.
Okay, let's put it in a smart city. I'm giving you a simple use case. We are we have a huge village that is in Saudi, we are building it, that is going to build a huge smart city. There are endpoints. These endpoint gives a potential of cyber attack. How to protect these endpoints? With a simple symmetric key agreement. Zero trust. What you need is zero trust, real-time solution. Imagine you're going to enter your home. I'm giving you as a simple, okay? You have a key, you have a door. You enter with your key, and the door, both key and door, can be changed in 20 seconds. Simple as this.
Wow, thank you so much for explaining quantum in such a simple way, really.
You can change the key and the door in 20 seconds. Put this in context. For a transaction of financial, whatever. But this is simple as this. Imagine you change the door and the key that you enter the door in 20 seconds. Symmetric key agreement that help you. This is the future. يعني still there is a lot to do with the amount of data. There is a lot.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing this very powerful image of what quantum is. So to quote you, it's like pretty much changing the key in the door to your home every time you enter to keep it as safe as possible. Kauthar, any thoughts on that? Anything you'd like to add?
Well, I think we were talking about how UAE, and I think, you know, I'm very proud and happy to be here because we are in the world at the right place at the right moment, where the UAE is really leading the way, investing and defining, you know, the cybersecurity strategy in the next 50 years. There are very few countries that are, you know, publicly admitting and acknowledging. So how are we being part of defining that, you know, nationwide cyber resilience, which is just amazing. I think I was listening to Dr. Kuwaiti a few days ago, and you know, he was explaining how the amount of data is just going to be continuously explode, and how are we going to be protecting that data, but also how as a country we'll be able to continue be cyber resilient. How are we going to be able to you know, prepare and respond and leverage all of these technologies, AI, machine learning, robots, etc., and integrate them. Sorry, and you know, fuse them within the overall strategy. So I only can add that, you know, we are paving the way. Lots of things are being there. Technologies are important, but definitely not the only thing that we need to focus on. Human has to be the first and last line of defense. That is critical, and we need happy people as well. But also, I think people need to really keep sharpening their processes and keep training. Thank you, Maliha.
Thank you, Kauthar. I will now ask one last question to each of you. If you had one prediction on cybersecurity for the future, what would it be? Maybe we start with you, Sebastian.
Gosh. I mean, I think everything we've talked about today has led me in the direction of my conclusion. If we put it all together, and I completely agree with Kauthar, this is the most exciting region to be in, to be working in cybersecurity. When you put together the combination of everything, the huge challenges, the huge ambitions that are being set up through the Giga projects, the kind of things that Engineer Salwa is working on, attempting to try to secure the Giga projects in the face of, as you said, Maliha, the greatest number of attacks per capita of anywhere except the US. All of this going on, and it's going on here, which is both fascinating, exciting, and terrifying. And the terrifying bit is where my prediction, I think, is going to come in, because I am absolutely sure that the student who's starting today their cybersecurity degree is going to be studying things which are mostly going to be useless to them. And that by the time they hit the workforce in 5 years' time, they're going to be working on a challenge which none of us in this room can even think of. And we saw it with generative AI. I mean, where did that come from? It's like everyone's talking about it, they're talking about it like maybe it'll be a thing, maybe it'll be a thing. Suddenly, it is a thing. And it's a massive thing. Quantum, that was going to be a thing. Well, it was going to be a thing. Then a lot of people didn't believe in it. Now it's a thing. And Engineer Salwa was having to change her keys and her doors every day to try and secure everything. So, and that's just the speed we're moving at the moment. So 5 years' time, I'm quite glad I'm not a graduate studying cybersecurity at the moment, because it's a world of impossibility.
Thank you, Sebastian. You also said something that was quite interesting when we were preparing for this panel, and I'll quote Sebastian, who was saying that actually for the future, it won't be about studying cybersecurity. It is going to be about learning about the newest technologies as and when they come out. So really following the latest research and understanding the technology to be able to secure it. So that really stuck with me. I completely agree with it. I myself come from a computer science kind of background, and it has helped me a lot to better understand how to secure technologies. And I think that's a great takeaway from you, Sebastian. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Malha. And absolutely. The messages focus on the fundamentals. You know, as long as you're learning the fundamentals, you've got all the building blocks you need then to adapt to the modern challenges. If you're trying to pick off the modern challenges, you'll be out of date, I think.
Great. Thank you. Kauthar, what are your thoughts on a bold prediction for the future on cybersecurity?
My dear, I think cybersecurity, it's difficult for me to predict what's going to happen later today. But honestly, I think with the speed of everything that is happening, you were talking about AI and quantum and all of this happening. The challenge we have also is, you know, all of the hackers have really weaponized time, and you know, for as somebody to breach into your company, it can take seconds, and I see a lot of organizations that, you know, it takes an average of 80 to 90 days for them to recover. So I think if I had to give a bold idea about how organizations will be able to now master time and really shorten the time, because this is going to happen. So once we admit that we all agree this is going to happen, how can we as organizations and professionals help in mastering the time as well, with more AI, more, I would say, machine learning, more of the technologies, more humans that are aware and, cybersecurity savvy on protecting the world.
Thank you so much, Kauthar. Some great insights there on the future of cybersecurity and how it's going to become even more mission critical. This is what I'm retaining from this. A great takeaway as well. And Salwa, what would be your prediction for the future of cybersecurity?
No? Okay. Collaboration is most important with government entities securing the network. If we secure our own network, we will not reach anything. It should be collaboration between all units, organization, academia, okay, to have one secure approach to secure our network. This is the revolution of because of the amount of systems that are connected, the amount of data that we are sharing and generating. Without securing it, we will not reach anything. The future is just to continue. Collaboration is number one. This is my opinion.
Great, thank you so much, Salwa. I think you've used a great keyword there, which is collaboration at all levels. And I'll close this panel just with my thoughts from, all the interaction we've had. I think that on my side, because I've asked you all three of you a very challenging question, so I'll also give my 2 cents on that. I do think that the future of cyber is going to merge with physical security, with medical devices security, with, we talked about social safety, the impact of technology on the human being, and truly having technology at the service of the human being and not being disturbed by it. So there's a notion of digital safety that I see, And all of that will kind of merge together into a sort of a 360 type of security of human beings, right? So that the fifth industrial era does truly become at the service of humankind, with technology at the service of humans, to make it a better place to live in, to save our planet, and to make the workforce as well a better place, to be in on a day-to-day basis. I would like to thank again the Mohammed bin Rashid Maktoum Foundation, Knowledge Foundation, and the United Nations Development Programme for hosting this session, for inviting us to be part of this very interesting panel. A big thank you to our three panelists, Sebastian, Kauthar, and Salwa, for being here today. Thank you, everyone, for being at the session today. Now we'll close the session. Thank you all.
Thank you, Malihia.
Some questions, of course, if we have a few minutes.
Yeah, I have a question for Sebastian, because we were discussing diversity in cybersecurity.
Well, I love it.
So we were discussing diversity in cybersecurity, and it's a thought that maybe there is too much focus right now on gender diversity. Of course, we are all for equal opportunity for everyone, but for example, Professor Salwa and Kauthar, they were talking about events like Cyber for Women Day or Cyber for Girls Day. How do you think we could make that more inclusive in terms that events are Cyber Day, generally Cyber Day, because making opportunities that are focused cyber for women, it's like it leaves the men in this case. So that could backfire in the future, where we are just focusing on women. Instead, we should rather be focusing on skill, because you are not hiring someone because he's a man or because he's a woman. You hire, especially in a field like cybersecurity that's very technical. We're not talking about modeling or psychology or something. It's a field that focuses on technical abilities. So we should focus more, I think, on skills, on neurodiversity. You mentioned neurodiversity. So how do you think we should approach that in the future?
I think that's a really excellent question. And it's one we ask ourselves on a number of occasions as we run these women in cyber type programs. It's like, why are we only focusing on 50%? And I think the answer is it would be lovely to be at the point where women didn't need extra encouragement within the workforce. It's different from different country to different country. There is no one size that's going to fit every aspect of the problem. So, and my co-panelists have covered, I think, different bits of the problem very, very well. But for a lot of parts of the world, there is a big, big problem in girls taking STEM subjects at school, and just showing them that if you take a STEM subject at school, you can then get into a career in cybersecurity can be a great starting point. Other parts of the world, the problem is not girls going to school or university and studying STEM degrees, it's getting jobs. The drop-off rate between education and employment is enormous. So then you need to focus on the people who are awarding jobs and say, actually, women can be just as good in cybersecurity as men. Elsewhere, here in the Gulf, you're brilliant. You have got fantastic female in cybersecurity at all levels. So the reason I like the UK Gulf Women in Cyber program, which Engineer Salwa is on, is we're essentially taking role models from the Gulf and saying to the rest of the world, here's how to do it, guys. Here is how you embed. So I completely agree with where you're coming from, which is probably in the Gulf, we should be looking at a much more holistic program. Like, yes, there should be Cybersecurity Week, there should be Cybersecurity for Neurodiversity, we should be going to everyone and saying, you need to take part in this. In more backward parts of the world, like England, unfortunately, we still need to do women in cyber to get people into the jobs in the first place.
Thank you so much. We'll have to close the session now. We've been told that the session is over. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll blame overrunning on being asked a really brilliant question right at the end.